You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
Thank heaven above.
Yeah. Right, listen, Rachel, thanks for coming. Okay, we're recording now. Misadventures of an Accidental Activist. Right, before I get into this book, it's nice to see you.
And you?
After telling you all about mics and audio and how to do things properly and not swinging your chair, I've never had a guest so upset as you.
I know. Well, movement. Well, Karina will tell you, movement of the spine is very important. You shouldn't be sitting still for 2 hours and not move. She'll have a absolute fit when she sees this.
Well, listen, if you need a break and you want to get up, we can always pause. It's just that whole rotating like a kid. People don't like it. People don't like it.
It's such good fun.
So listen, it's nice to see you again. We saw, met each other in Bristol.
We did.
I saw you talk on the thing. And I think that's one thing you give yourself a hard time in the book. Like, you make it look like you did an awful performance. And you were really good. I thought
it was only the car crash at the beginning. It was all right once I got going.
No, I thought you were great. I thought you were really, really good and engaging. And I just thought, I love this lady.
Oh, thank you.
I think you're being a bit tough on yourself. But that was only the second time you spoke publicly?
Yes. And I hadn't slept the night before because we'd stayed in the hotel there and the rooms were hermetically sealed. You couldn't open a window, and I'm someone that likes the window fully open at all times. So it was like an absolute sweatbox. And it's not until the morning I discovered they got air conditioning. So I hadn't slept all night. And I come on stage and then couldn't remember something rather vital to what I was saying, complete mind blank. So it wasn't the best preparation for my second and biggest public speaking.
Oh, no. You didn't see me speak, did you?
I did, yes.
You did?
Yeah. I was so grateful you turned up because otherwise they were going to bump me ahead and I wasn't ready to be the first person to warm the audience up.
Yeah, so that they didn't tell me that. They said I was going to be in the afternoon. So can you imagine how I felt when I pitched up and they went, right, you're first. And I was like, what? Like, what? Was not ready for that. But I also had a room there. Because he said, it's going to be late in the evening by the time it gets to an end, and if you want to stay. I went, okay. So I went up to my room, and like you said, it was hermetically sealed. I felt like chemically, like it was all chemicals. There's no fresh air. It's all Wi-Fi. I was like, I'm getting out of here. So I just drove home. I got home late, but it was like, I'd rather sleep at home in my own bed than a hotel.
Yes. Well, at least you could do it with that distance, whereas coming from Colchester, it's a 4-hour drive. So
Yeah. But listen, let's talk about your book. Mm-hmm. Very nice book, Misadventures of an Accidental Activist. Honestly, like I was saying to you just outside, I was reading it and I was like, these are my words. I'm like, oh my God, she's like my twin.
I know.
I've literally said and written like whole passages what you've described. And it was a bit sobering because it just confirmed that it's all real. Because part of me just hopes, I actually do want to be wrong. I want people to come round to me and say, nah, you crazy conspiracy theorist. This is all garbage. Look, it's not happening as what you describe. It's actually okay. It's just blah, blah, blah. But you've kind of laid it out just as I think. And it's sobering. But it's not all doom and gloom. I know. That's not the purpose of the book. But it is, people need to realize, don't they? Because imagine if you've got a cancer. There's no point talking about treatment if you don't even know you've got the diagnosis. You need to, first of all, appreciate and understand that you have this condition before you can seek help and decide what treatment options you are. I think we're at that part in our timeline of humanity where the vast majority of humanity doesn't even know that they've got a cancer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. What helped me during the lockdown was coming across Sandy Adams, as I said in the book, because she connected all the dots. I was suddenly wide awake to everything that was wrong. But it's not until you connect it, and in some ways it brings you a bit of relief that it's not a million things wrong. It's one thing and they're all connected. So it's the idea of the book. It's a pink pill book. It's to help those that are questioning. They've been feeling something's not quite right, but they haven't had the time or inclination really to connect those dots and look at the bigger picture and see where it's heading. But it's also for people that are awake, that are stuck in anger, fear or grief, because I see so many people that are very aware of everything and it gets on top of you. We all have those days where it's just too much to bear. So you need something to help both groups come out of it and say, look, there are other things that we can do and a future that we can aim for. Because at the moment, we're always on the back foot of, oh, they're doing this or they're doing that, rather than, well, actually, hang on, there's a lot more of us. What do we want to achieve? What's the world we would like to create? Because otherwise, as I say, you're always on the back foot. So that's quite a lot to try and do in one book, but I've done my best with it, which is why it's quite a chunky book.
No, you did, and it's peppered with your natural conversation style and humor, and I really like it. It's good. And right at the beginning, off the bat, you talk about your experience being in Spain when lockdown happened and the whole passport fiasco. Mm-hmm. But it's a real eye opener for me. I didn't realize how dystopian it was. Can you just take a few minutes, like take a bit of time, just describing what it was like in Spain? Because I didn't appreciate how hard it was.
It was, they were not messing about with lockdown in Spain. They really meant business. And I'd been there sort of 10 years. So my experience of Spain was they're slight rule breakers and, you know, the Spanish do things their own way. I quite like that rebellious nature of them and fun and gregariousness. And then the lockdowns happened. And you weren't allowed to leave your house, not even for exercise, for nearly 3 months. And they were dishing out fines. You had armed police on the streets. We had helicopters going overhead, patrol boats. In some parts, there were drones. Thankfully, not drones over the urbanisation I was trapped on, but some of the bigger ones had them. And yeah, Spanish police are not like English coppers where, you can have a chat and maybe be a bit cheeky. Spanish police, they mean business. There's no messing around with them. So they get hold of you, you're for it. And one of the things that they were really concentrating on was tourists that have been there too long, of which I was one, because as you say, I'd sent my passport back to the UK to be renewed, and a friend was meant to bring it back with her middle of March. And of course, you can imagine how that panned out. So I was completely trapped. And yeah, I just couldn't go anywhere or do anything. And of course, it was a papers, please situation. So for me to go out without a passport, okay, I had a driver's license, but that is, you're meant to have your passport. So if I'd been stopped by the police, I would probably have been deported because I didn't have any proper identification on me. So I spent the entire time hiding from the police in one form or another. And thankfully, the local organic shop delivered to, because it was in the next province, they were still allowed to deliver food. So I hardly had to venture out. But when I did have to go, because you couldn't get everything from them, I'd be constantly ducking and diving to be hiding from the police, because I knew if they stopped me, I would be in so much trouble. And it was just the whole time you weren't, the urbanisation I was on is mostly, it was where people from Granada came to have a holiday home. So there was very few English. And during the time I was there was only 3 of us on the urbanisation. So everyone I knew that was within walking distance had gone back to England. So I was completely on my own, totally trapped, couldn't go anywhere, and daren't be caught out by the police. So it was, I don't know how to put it into words, really. I tried to cover it in the book, but it's...
Because you weren't even allowed out for the first kind of 3 months,
no.
Right? Like, I mean, not even for exercise.
No, you weren't allowed out to even walk around your urbanisation.
And walking your dog was limited to what?
50 metres.
And if you went 5 miles or 5k out of your zone?
Oh, that's when they did let you out. You were allowed to go 5 kilometres, but I never found out whether it was as the crow flies or on the zigzaggy mountain roads. You'd hardly get anywhere. You had to go to the nearest shop to where you lived.
And they would check your shopping bag?
Oh, yes, you had to have, essentials only, because I know people that were going out every day, would buy a bag of crisps and then go back again. But if they were caught, again, it'd be €600 fine.
People have forgotten, haven't they?
They made millions in a matter of days.
Yeah, the fines were big.
Yeah, they were. And I would have been fined at least 2,000 for not having a passport had they caught me.
And have you been back to Spain since?
I have, yes, because I persuaded, well, as soon as I did get back to England, I said to my parents, you need to sell that house. They didn't want to believe me, but a couple of years later, they were like, yeah, you're right, we do need to sell that house. So last year,
Why did they need to sell it?
Because I could see where it was going, that if you need a vaccine passport to fly, and also with the net zero stuff, wanting to do carbon credits, and I just thought it was going to be a noose around their neck and they wouldn't get to go out as often as they wanted. And plus I was the person that was looking after it in the winter months, because they didn't like being out there and I had the place to myself. So without me being able to be there as the housekeeper, if you like, it was going to be much harder for them. And also I was expecting an economic crash and I didn't think that would be a good place to keep their money and have a house they couldn't use.
And the Spanish people that, do any of them look back now and talk about it and go, oh my God, that was batshit crazy?
Well, most of the people I know are expats from one location or another. My Spanish was so abysmal, even though I was there for 10 years, and I tried so hard.
You're like me.
I didn't want to be that English person that can't speak, but I'm just hopeless with languages. Alas.
That's all right, me too.
The running joke is if I ever get a bash to the head and can't speak English, that's it. There's no hope for me. So my Spanish was good enough for shopping and emergencies, but not conversational. So the people I knew were Latvian, Polish, English, Americans, and it was quite a remarkably awake community, considering I was stranded in a little tiny fishing village. I was, well, as I say in the book, I was in the right place at the right time with the right people. I was very lucky with getting stranded there and not in England, because had I been here in England, I don't think I'd have woken up to the degree that I did, because it wouldn't have impacted my life at all, really, the English lockdown.
So this is coming back to the bigger picture that I was telling you. I don't think enough people understand their diagnosis of cancer. And I don't think until it's metastasized and fungating and ulcerating, until it's really bad, will most people wake up. But the problem is a race, because it's a race for them to wake up before it's too late. Anyway, going back to Spain, yeah, oh God, you're just so funny. You're just so funny. You're just like me. Like, my sister speaks fluent Swedish.
Oh, how annoying. And,
she lives out there and she works out there and people barely know she's not from Sweden.
Oh.
It's that's crazy. And I genuinely think people are better at learning certain things than others. Some people have got mathematical minds, some have got art, languages, art, music, all that kind of stuff. I'm not good at languages. My mum always says to me, why don't you get Kat to speak Hindi? And I'm like, where is she going to learn it from? You. I'm like, have you heard me speak Hindi? Like, it's laughable. There was an earthquake in Kashmir, I think it was 2006. I don't know if you remember that one, just after the tsunami one. It was a year after that. And I went out there up in the mountains, and all these people are like internal bleeding, shock, crushed femurs, all that kind of stuff, really unwell. And I would go up to them and try and speak in Hindi and try and, help them. And they all burst out laughing. I mean, these people were in severe pain.
Helped in your own way.
But they thought the way I was speaking was hilarious, because it's all about, it's like French. It's, feminine, masculine pronouns,
that
nouns.
drives me insane.
And then also they have different words and ways to speak to if you're an elder and to a child. And because my parents spoke to me as I was a child, that's the way I've learned to speak to other people. So even the grown-ups, I'm talking to them as if they're children, and I'm getting all the masculine, feminine thing all wrong, and it was just, people thought it was hilarious. So yeah, I can barely speak Hindi. I can barely speak any
By the
language.
time you've worked out the sex of the furniture, the whole conversation has moved on.
Yeah. It's literally like that. But you're in Spain, and it was interesting, this hodgepodge of people you're with. People have been in former communist countries, and they're like, we know this. We've been here.
We know communism when we see it.
Yeah. What was that like?
It was really eye-opening. And also, as you sort of mentioned earlier, you want to think it's you being crazy. You do not want to think this is real. And then to have other people say, oh, yeah, this is real. Actually, one of my Latvian friend, her husband, now were they married at the time? I'm not sure if they're married at the time. But anyway, her now husband, she labelled him as a conspiracy theorist. He's Brazilian, and he'd got all the David Icke books, Daniel Esteban and all that kind of Tavistock. So she always thought, oh, bless him, that's just him. But as soon as COVID struck, she was like, oh, he's right. So she started then reading David Icke's books, and I was getting stuff from her as well. And she just really was, I just thought that was a sweet character thing of her, one of those things you just ignore, and it's just him, bless him. But then for her to go, oh no. And then he's sort of saying, this is everything I've been trying to tell you for however many years. I think they've been together 10 years. So yeah, it was very helpful to have people that had an alternative worldview than perhaps I would have grown up with.
Yeah. And I thought the 9/11 one was interesting, where all these 9/11 volunteers, someone who'd been there said that people were trying to help get people out of the rubble. Suddenly the FBI pitched up and said, get out of here, otherwise you're going to get arrested. And they never explained why. It was just really weird. You'd think they would want people to help out.
Yes. Yeah.
Bizarre. But see, the way you were surrounded by that group of people, I had my little tribe because I was involved in the Brexit Party. And the Brexit Party, they were very Eurosceptic, didn't trust big government, blah, blah, blah. So all the local community, I was in their WhatsApp groups and Telegram groups. And that's where I was like, oh my God, what is happening? To be honest, I thought they had all gone crazy. They're talking about vaccine passports and gene therapy back in March 2020. And I thought, they've lost the plot here. Well, look where that turned out. But yeah, I was going to say something else that was very similar to, my experience. You talked about how you've come from being very normie to this download of information in a very short space of time. And people are like, whoa, it took us years to get to this point. Rachel, it's been the same for me.
Once you start researching, you can't just read a little bit. I've got a very inquisitive mind, as I know you do, and you've got to get to the bottom of it. And my thing was to prove it wrong because I had nothing better to do. As I say in the book, is the type of stuff I was coming across because my awake friends were saying, Rachel, get off Facebook, because I was being well and truly attacked every time I questioned, well, that doesn't make sense. And what about this? And then it was immediate pile on.
Yeah.
And they were saying, right, get over to Telegram or Signal. I'm going, what's that? And they go, like, just come here. And then, so I got onto Telegram and started reading the types of things that under normal circumstances, I would have been rolling my eyes at. But I had that prickle at the back of my neck and I had nothing else to do. I was trapped in a house to research it. And my main focus was like, that cannot be true and I'm going to prove it. And then every day I couldn't prove it. In fact, if anything, I proved it more correct because back then in 2020, information was much easier. Less had been scrubbed than now. Although I realised probably, if you were doing this 20 years ago, you'd have had even more information available. But with what I was able to piece together, it very quickly, I realised things were not at all right. And it just was so chilling because the world, I'd always thought governments were, it's a big boys club and you're not in it and it's backhanders. I hadn't figured there was anything worse in the world than good old fashioned greed. And, no one wants to be a politician or a councillor, etc. So they're a bit greedy. They line their own pockets. No big deal. Let's, carry on digital nomading and enjoying the warmer parts of the world and having a very nice life. Thank you. So I really wasn't tuned in to the level that this is at. And that was so shocking to discover it so quickly that, by the time I got to what's happening to millions of children worldwide, that absolutely did me in. I just couldn't cope with that. I had to take a week off researching because that was beyond anything I could imagine.
That stuff about the children is what kind of like got me off those groups in 2020. Because I fell for the fear porn initially for about 4 weeks. I was like, oh my God, we need lockdown. But I was coming out of the Brexit campaign. I was very bruised and battered, financially hit, psychologically just spent. So I think that was why, because I was vulnerable. I was already on my knees. But then when they were like talking about just stay at home until you die kind of thing, I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And then I was like, this is all wrong. And then when I went on the groups and they were talking about it, I was like, yep, I'm on board with all that. And these people that were like working with me on my campaign, and I trusted them. They're really good people. This is all bullshit. But then when I started coming across things like adrenochrome and everything, I was like, whoa, this is just too much. I just needed to switch off. You can see my kids over there, you know, I've got little kids, and I'm just imagining kids like them and what's happening. It's just the depth of evil. It was just so disgusting and so sick. I felt it was going to swamp and consume me, this black liquid just suffocating me. So I just needed to get away. So most of the then summer, I just spent in my garden in the sun. We had a really good summer here with my kids, and I just try to switch off. I think sometimes you need to do that and recharge. But and then I had to get back into the fight again. But I want to talk about kind of things that you've found. Like, what did you find? One of the things I liked when I was reading your book was you're not a one-ticket person. A lot of people are just, you know, a single issue person. You know, like, there's no viruses. You know, it's just every day I get a comment like that. Doc, you're a fraud. You call yourself honest and you still push the virus, you know, agenda. And I'm like, oh, Lord, guys, don't you know there's more to it? Then there's some people who say, no, it's this, it's the fiat money system. Then there's other people, it's the Jews. And then there's other people saying it's this, it's that. It's not any one thing. It's very multifactorial. This is a war being waged on us on multiple fronts. What are the things that you know, in your little wee download, discovered? What's going on?
Oh, and what subject?
Everything.
It was everything. Trying to think, because I tried not to put too much in the book. I tried to line up all the pieces and let the reader connect the dots, because one thing I was very aware of is that had anybody tried to tell me what I had discovered, I wouldn't believe them. I would think they're crazy. So I've tried to write the book in a way that, and then I discovered this, and then I discovered that, without using too inflammatory language, so that people can come on that journey of discovery with me.
Well, then let's start with COVID then. What did you discover? Because you did a money paper trail and you're discovering what happens with the money. So that's a good place to start.
Okay.
What did you find?
Well, a lot went back to Bill Gates, because I was on Telegram and people kept muttering about Bill Gates, and I'm thinking, what's he got to do with anything? So I went onto the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation website, and I downloaded at the time, it was very easy to find. It's not quite so easy to find these days, but he's got a spreadsheet that you can download with all their donations from the past however many years. So I got hold of this spreadsheet, I walloped it into alphabetical order, and I went through it line by line. And there's the BBC, The Guardian, there's the World Health Organization, there's
Imperial College?
Imperial College, you name it, he's funded it. But when you, the Blair Foundation got quite a lot as well.
20 million?
Yes, correct. And yeah, so I went through it and I created a little chart of everything that he'd funded, and you could just do the whole thing from this spreadsheet, and it was millions and millions and millions to all the key players. And I found an interview where he boasted that he'd made a 20-to-1 return on investment with vaccines. And then I started to dig through what had happened in India with the polio. They'd given twice the recommended dose, and I think it was, oh gosh, was it 500 million? No, it can't have been that much. Anyway, it was a staggering. No, maybe it was 500,000 children had been permanently paralysed. I read about, and again, I don't know, I didn't go to the level of research of backing up to find out. This is just what I discovered while I was reading. How much of it's true, I didn't go down every rabbit hole to the nth degree. I just kind of formed a picture. But certainly the where the money goes, that bit I did myself. And then I got interested in reading up about what else he does. So I read
But some people might argue, sorry for cutting you off, some people might argue he's just being a really charitable fellow. He's made his billions, he's got this foundation, he's just giving money to worthy causes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I researched him further and found out that was it Kenya, the girls that had been sterilised by, was it tetanus shot, I think it was?
Something like
that. And then the lawsuit in India against him. And I started to get a bigger picture. And I listened to RFK a lot at that time. And he was very helpful to listen to because he was talking about how the mRNA vaccines, they'd been trying to get them to market for 20 years, but they'd never managed to get them through safety testing. He talked about how all the ferrets died and then they had to discontinue the experiments in children because it was making them very ill. So I researched it from every angle. I mean, the first thing I think was probably, I guessed fairly early on they'd be pimping vaccines. That's all I thought it was about. So that's where I started out because I'd heard of RNA, but I'd never heard of mRNA. So that was where I started. And then because I kept coming up against Bill Gates's name, it's like, what's the computer geek got to do with anything? I then tracked all of that. And yeah, the more research I did, the more horrified I was with these vaccines can't possibly be safe. That much was clear. Even, I'm a garden designer from Essex, for goodness sake. If I can figure it out, and okay, I'm very fascinated with medicine because of my own health journey. So it's something I've always taken an interest in. But even so, I'm not a doctor, I'm not qualified, but I could see in layman's terms, oh boy, you don't want to be taking this stuff. So, and then why would they be doing this? And I discovered the vaccine passport documentation that had been written by the EU and how they were planning to bring that in 21, I think it was. Anyway, I pieced together, it was just like Follow the Yellow Brick Road, but the dark satanic version when you start looking into it. And then at some point, all the roads converge with no matter what you research, you end up with what's happening to the children. It doesn't matter which thread you pick. It all goes to some very nasty people pulling all the strings on pretty much everything in the world.
All right, that's a good place to start. So I think he, Bill Gates, and a lot of other rich people use foundations as tax vehicles.
And they swap money around because the Clinton Foundation, it goes backwards and forwards like a yo-yo.
Does it?
Yeah, the Clinton Foundation was there. And they all seem to donate to each other. It's like pass the parcel.
Oh, there you go then. So yeah, I think there's they shelter from themselves from paying tax, and that's where all these trusts and foundations come into. It's funny, these billion-dollar enterprises don't pay tax, but little you and me have to pay tax. So that's how they do that. So it's not really philanthropy. It's not really charity, and it's an investment, like you said. They pay the media companies and the universities to basically give expert cover. I've talked about universities basically being whores now, intellectual whores, educational whores. So they hoard themselves out with their names and say, yes, Cambridge University has done this vaccine trial study, and they get a shiny building and £50 million in grants and God knows what else. And, the professors become boards or directors or whatever in return for, I don't know, it's not whitewashing, greenwashing, it's something washing, educationally washing, whatever study.
Brainwashing. Yeah,
brainwashing. That's it. They're just literally brainwashing. But with the fact that they've got credentials. Imperial College said that this is safe and effective, and Cambridge, who's going to argue with that? These pillars of education. But they've become whores now. And so, all these institute and foundations like Bill and Melinda Gates are paying these universities and departments and professors who are all just whores now. But in return, Bill Gates and other people make money.
I mean, 21 to return on investment. That's pretty good going.
Well, I mean, he invested in Moderna or something, and he sold his stocks, and I think he got a massive markup. Yeah, 20 to 1. Just insane. So what else did you find on your little journey? So vaccine passports, one could argue that if you look at Gavi and Bill and Melinda Gates, they fund the WHO that pushes the vaccine agenda, which means that everybody has to buy more vaccines. So that's a kind of like a circular thing going on there. I'll support you, but in return, you have to support me. So I make more money and I'll give you more money. Then you make me more money. It goes round and round and round. Maybe the vaccine passport is just a way that they get their racket continuing. Like everybody needs to buy their vaccines. But I think it's also a little bit more nefarious than that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. That's one thing I haven't written in the book. I'm letting people join the dots themselves, connect that bit. But yeah, there does seem to be a depopulation agenda. And again, that's not something one wants to acknowledge. that your own government and all the governments, although
I wasn't talking about depopulation. I was talking about digital IDs, vaccine passports.
Oh yeah, that bit.
You know, like biometric vaccine passports. You know, and infringement in your freedom of travel and your basic fundamental freedoms. Like, why do I need a vaccine passport to work, to travel, to go to a bar? I mean, that's...
Its complete control system is coming in.
You know, but on the pretext of health, what I'm trying to say is...
Oh, yeah.
It's just...
Well, you would never agree unless you think these things are vital, and what's more vital than surviving a deadly pandemic or whatever. Health is a wonderful stick to beat people with, isn't it? That if you're not going to be safe unless you agree to do this, this and this. So it's a great way of herding the population, because you would never agree to a vaccine passport or a digital ID or any of these things unless you had a lot of pressure put on you.
Yeah.
Or you were very simple, one or the other.
Yeah. I mean, I sympathise for the public. I think they're victims of massive military-grade psyops and behavioural manipulation. A lot of these people, like in Sage, were like, Marxist, former communist people with affiliations with very left-leaning kind of like totalitarian mindset. It's amazing, by the way. The Fabian Society's involved. It is very much like communism 2.0 that they're all about. And I know you never talked about it, but I think depopulation is a big part of this. They talk about it. They have been for decades, if not more than a century, starting with Malthusian ideas, and the whole, eugenics movement. But I think depopulation is actually real. Initially, when I first heard it, I thought it was just garbage. But there's more ways to depopulate than a gene jab. Yeah, a lot of people said, it's going to kill everybody. Well, the thing is, it's staggered over time. So some people died immediately. Some people are made infertile, so they can't have children. Some people will just die quicker. So there's lots of different ways that it can work. But I think it's also going to be through wars, through famine, and God knows what else. But I think depopulation is definitely on the agenda. So what, you talked about one part, like I think where you're talking about, you've discovered a lot of things, but it's that Agenda 2030, that noble sustainability goals. But what, the government's got things planned for us, haven't they? That net zero carbon, it's in their documents that you've even mentioned in your book. What's in store for us if people don't wake up?
Well, only if we let it. That's the key takeaway. But yes, I mean, this is where Sandy Adams' work came in, because she really connected the dots of the 17 sustainability goals. When you read through them, you can download it from the UN website. Agenda 2030 sounds lovely. It's ever so fluffy. I mean, who wouldn't want to end world poverty and world hunger and look after the planet? I mean, so I did read through that and thought, well, it sounds fine. I mean, it's, all the right language and everything in it. But then it's the devil's in the details. And it's how they're going to get that through.
But can I just quickly say, it's not just the devil's in the details. I did a podcast with Aman Jabi about this, by the way. The devil is all about inversion.
Yes.
All right. So when you look at the sustainability goals with the inversion in mind, you truly understand what they mean. So when they say end all food poverty and everything, what they're saying is you will all eat bugs and you will not eat meat. When they say gender equality, they say that means we're going to push the idea of transgender, and there will be no gender equality. Men will be able to go into women's bathrooms and whatnot. It's everything's inverted. You just need to look at it through the inverted eye, and that's truly satanic. But anyway, carry on. What else?
I didn't have that eye at that time that I was researching, and it's difficult, because I think most people are honest, decent, and true, and you say what you mean. So to twist things to mean the complete opposite the entire time is quite difficult. So, So thank goodness for people like Sandy Adams, who'd been researching Agenda 2030 for sort of 17, 18 years, and she was able to spell it out. And what really blew my mind, and it's a shame I can't find the interview that she did that really triggered me, was she showed this map of the USA, and it was all colour-coded, and there were human settlement zones in one colour, settlement corridors where you were allowed, and rewilding. And most of the states was down to rewilding and military. And the tiniest bits were where humans could live.
Yeah.
And she said, I've spoken to her recently on this, and she said so many people kicked up over that graph or that map that they sort of backtracked and said, oh, well, you know, that was just an ideal. And then you're not...
I've seen it, by the way. It's terrifying.
It is, isn't it? That if that doesn't wake you up looking at that graphic, and even though they've not exactly retracted it, but they've just said, oh, well, it was just an idea. You know the direction of travel. You know what they're trying to achieve. And then I think at this point, it was probably her that told me about 15-minute cities, and, you know, you're going to be in your zone. And because I'd seen that map of what they'd like to do in America, that for me, that one piece and her connecting it all and saying, you know, they're going to own everything. They have catalogued every plant, tree, every piece of wildlife they've got. And she's got the book, actually. It's a massive, great book of everything, all the Earth's resources they wish to own and control, including us.
It's like Hunger Games.
I never saw it. I haven't watched TV or anything for like years.
Yeah, it's just like
digital nomading. So I've read about the connection, but and obviously the predictive programming that goes into that type of thing. But yeah, you can see the direction of travel. You can, and when you learn about common law, etc., you can see that they just view us as, you know, meaningless. We're things to be traded and commoditized. Everything in this world is a commodity to them. And I mean, I still, as I say in the end of the book, I'm still confused as to why anyone would want, with all the money and power in the world, why do you need to do this? It still, to me, is just because they're putting in so much effort. I mean, this is not an easy thing that they've suddenly decided. This has been generationally planned. And the average person does not think in these terms. And it's very bizarre, the whole thing. But anyway.
It is very bizarre because, look, if you even think, there's a lot of people out there who've got family businesses. You even think about family business, getting your son and daughter to get into the family business and carry it on and not go off and do their own thing. It's not an easy thing. Most family businesses don't survive 1 or 2 generations because someone will come along and go, I don't want to be a butcher. I want to go and do something else. You know, what I'm trying to say is, it's hard enough for us normal people to plan something next week, never mind a few months from now, never mind next year, 2 years, and carry on with another generation and another generation and say, you know, our grandson or granddaughter is going to carry this out. That idea is just so nonsensical to most human beings. It's like, nah. So when you say there are people or families or individuals who are carrying out multi-generational crime, pre-planning and executing across, you know, decades, your average punter goes, you're fucking crazy, because it's just not fathomable.
I wouldn't have believed it myself had I not done so much reading and research. And the only reason I believe that to be true is because when you go back through history, I mean, once you've uncovered the COVID thing isn't as they say it is, then that really dumb question is, well, I wonder what else isn't true then. And then it's like right down the rabbit hole then. And
right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to read out to you some sustainability goals, and I'm going to invert it for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's all right.
Yeah, go for it. I've never done that exercise.
So number 1 is no poverty. That means there's going to be no meat, no healthy food. It's all going to be processed.
There's going to be no money.
There's going to be no money, but it's all going to be processed. You're going to have universal basic income. And that's what they mean by zero hunger. Actually, you are going to be hungry. You're going to be, you know, eating junk food and processed food.
No, you'll have patch meals.
Yeah, rations, all that kind of stuff. Good health and well-being means that you're going to be getting vaccinated and you're going to be medicated. You're going to be on antidepressants, anti-anxiolytics.
You're going to need them.
Yeah. And you're going to be tracked, traced, wearables, you name it. That's what that means. Quality education means you're going to be indoctrinated from day dot, even more so than now. It'll be some robot AI presentation. Everybody will just have to watch and learn and be fully indoctrinated and on board. There won't be any individual curriculum, any individual teacher. It'll be just mass. Watch in front of the screen, take in your daily dose of propaganda and brainwashing, and that's it. Clean water and sanitation. You can have toxic pesticides, heavy metals, fluoride, stuff like that in your water.
Yummy.
Affordable and clean energy. Well, you're not going to have any energy. You're not going to have any electricity. You're going to have shortages. You're going to have cutouts. You're going to be energy impoverished. That's what it's going to be like. You're not going to be able to travel more than 15 minutes because then they'll say, oh, your car can't go past the city limits. Decent work and economic growth. Most people are not going to be working. Most people are going to be on a universal basic income. There's going to be zero economic growth. It's actually managed decline. They want to deindustrialize the West, and they have been for a very long time, and they're achieving that aim. It's a complete inversion to what they said. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. There's going to be no industry. It's all going to be robotic, AI. There's not going to be any innovation. The infrastructure will be the digital grid that's going to hold us in our prisons. Reduced inequalities. Now there's going to be more. Everyone's going to be poor and own nothing. You're going to have this very rich ruling class, 0.00001%, who have everything. Sustainable cities and communities. Well, that's our 15-minute digital ghettos that we're going to be living in. Responsible consumption and production. Eat less, use less, buy less, wear less, have less of everything, basically. But not to them. They're going to have their mansions the size of Belgium and their yachts and their planes. Climate action. Remember, the planet's dying, so that means we're not allowed to have freedoms. We can't eat, we can't power ourselves, we can't travel, and it goes on and on. I mean, that's peace, justice. That basically just means there's no justice for us. There will be no rule for us. There will be no legal resort. They will have all the power, and everything stacked against us. They will use lawfare against us. More and more legislation. And as for partnerships, I mean, the corporations and the families will be solid, but they want to divide humanity and have us constantly pitted against each other. And we could go on and on, but that's it's all inverted. People can come up with their other inversions, but whatever noble thing you're seeing there's nothing noble there. It's pure evil.
It's delightful, something to look forward to. But no, that's only if we let them. And that's the thing. That's why I've written the book, because I couldn't continue with making the videos all the time and going into the council. So my parting shot is that book. That pass it around to people. It's on my website. People can get it.
We'll talk about solutions in a second, because you talk about that. I mean, that's a good chunk of this chat we're going to do. But look, there's another thing we need to map out. In there was a paragraph that I think people need to know about. What they've got planned for us from 2030 to 2047. Mm-hmm. People need to hear that. Do you want to go through it, or do you want me to repeat it? Like, when you talked about the airports and everything. Can you just expand on that? What have they got planned for us?
Well, if people download the Absolute Zero document from UK Fires, that's where they want to close down. Now, when's it starting? I think it's from 2030. It's been quite a couple of years since I've looked at this document. I think it's from 2030 to 2049. They're going to close all the airports bar Heathrow and Edinburgh, if I've remembered correctly. And then after that, they want all airports closed. They want all food imports by air and shipping to cease. And bearing in mind, tiny island here, and they're putting all our farmland over to solar. Minor detail. What are we going to be eating? What we can get through the Channel Tunnel?
And what else? They're going to stop us eating beef and lamb?
Yes, beef and lamb to be phased out from 2030. What else was there? Oh,
Vehicles.
It's just a whole delight. Yes, that's right. They want to reduce from 2030 the vehicles down by 60%. So, and you can see every move they're making to do that with the taxation and petrol price, you name it, they're trying to do it.
There's also things like concrete and steel.
Yeah, concrete and steel. They want us living in mud huts, which actually, having built a mud hut, they are very nice. But wouldn't want them in this climate.
But what I'm trying to say is people need to understand that. Just think about that. No air travel, except for a very select few who will be able to afford it. No traveling in a car for the vast majority of humanity. No energy, no warmth. They want us consuming less energy. So we're going to be colder for longer. Well,
AI's going to need it.
AI will need it. And we're going to have no decent food. I mean, I'm heavily carnivore, not 100%. I'm an omnivore, but 80% of my diet is beef or lamb.
Mm.
So this is going to impact me. And people need to appreciate this isn't just some fairy tale document. This was discussed in the House of Lords, and all they could come up with was, well, people might get upset there's no coffee or chocolate.
Don't worry, they'll have a substitute, probably made of bugs.
Yeah. So this is the future being laid out, and the reason why I'm hammering on about this is not to get people down, but it's
it's not going to cheer them up.
but it's the cancer.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to be happy to know they've got cancer. But what I would say to you is, and having spoken to lots of people with cancer, the number of people who presented late to me because they wanted to keep their head in the sand, I honestly saw quite a few. And by the time then they got to me, it was too late to just cut it out. They had to have an amputation, or it was too late. You know, they died because it had metastasized to other places. And while it's uncomfortable listening, and maybe I'm not good at breaking bad news, I think it's very important for people to recognize there is a cancer, because then only then can they then go, right, all the stuff that's in this book, we can enact it, because there are things like you talk about, that I also talk about, that we can all do to fight back against this cancer.
Yeah, but people need to know they're in a war in the first place.
They need to know, and they need to know there's a cancer there. And the problem is too many people have that head in the sand. There's a guy once who presented with this horrible fungating lesion on his ankle, and he'd been round and seen rheumatologists and sports doctors and GPs and chiropractors and God knows a whole number of people, and eventually pitches up to my clinic. And I looked at him and I went, like, this looks quite serious. I'm going to send you for an urgent x-ray. Did the x-ray. I went, look, this is going to be uncomfortable for you to hear, but you need to hear this. He was with a friend. And I said, look, there's something that's destroying the bone. This isn't a rheumatological problem that you've been told. This isn't an autoimmune condition. I hate to say this looks like a tumor that's invading into your bone, and it looks sinister. And I know this is not what you want to hear, and there's a good chance you're going to shoot the messenger, because that's what people do. That's where the saying comes from. Don't shoot the messenger. Because people do shoot the messenger. The messenger is not the originator of that message. The messenger didn't create the message, didn't create the problem. They're just delivering it. But human beings' natural inclination is, when you're presented with something that you don't like to hear or see, you attack the person who's provided you with that information, even though they had nothing to do with it. All they did was say, here it is. And I explained this to the guy. I said, look, there's a good chance you're going to get upset with me. I'm the bad doctor that told you this. But time is of the essence. You've described an 18-month history of this, and I cannot waste time. I'm now going to get on my phone and speak to a colleague who is a bone tumor surgeon to get you an urgent appointment. So I quickly rang. I explained the x-rays, but I got an appointment 2 days later. And the guy went, okay, thank you. And I never heard from him ever again. Never. And then, well, for the next year or so. But my colleague messaged me and said, oh my God, Emma, thank God you sent that guy, blah, 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 blah. Don't worry, I've got him in the system. We're going to be operating on him next week. Thanks, mate. You're on the ball. Okay, cheers. 4 or 5 months later, I see a review, Google review, saying Doc Malik is very rude and, harsh, blah, blah, blah. My friend came up and, he wasn't sensitive, or blah, blah, blah. I was like, I know who this guy is.
You've saved his life, but you didn't do it sensitively.
Yeah. Anyway.
Minor detail, I'd have thought.
A year and a half later, a book comes out about this guy and how he's ended up having an amputation. And he talks about me. And he talks about how actually I saved his life. And at the time, he didn't like me because I told him something he didn't want to hear. And him and his friend just were not happy about me. They kind of bitched about me. But now he's come to realize how I saved his life, how I went out of my way to get all the tests and scan that day. I went round to radiology and said I want an X-ray and MRI, and got all the information. I chased up with the bone tumor surgeon and how he got an operation immediately afterwards. He had an amputation, but he got it quickly enough, so it saved his life. And then he rang me and he apologized. What I'm trying to say is, this is what happens. And I said, was I rude? Because that review that's now been taken down said I was rude. He went, no, mate, you were not. In hindsight, you told me exactly what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. And this is why I come back to that cancer analogy. What we're discussing is uncomfortable. And a lot of people don't want to hear it. They want to go back to watching Netflix and TV that you don't do, drinking beer, watching sports, and just pretend none of this is happening. But the reality is, as long as that is happening, most people do nothing about it, then all the stuff that you talk about and I talk about to stopping this, it's not going to happen. So we need to wake people up. We need to like say, guys, ladies, snap out of this. Because honestly, like, an amputation isn't that bad compared to losing your life.
Yep.
And that's where we are right now. It's a matter of time. So is that a bit too much? Is that a bit too harsh? You can tell I'm not very good at breaking bad news. Quick little interruption, folks. Let me remind you, if you visit my website, docmalik.com, look at the top tab, you'll see I've got a shop. You can buy some merch there, but also under affiliates, you can see some of the products that I'm using at home. And there's Hunter and Gather. And there's a 10% code you can use there. They've got fantastic products. There's a spa and wellness company. Again, you can get 3% discount using Doc Malik. And then there's Sea Greens, seaweed nutrition, rich in biocompatible iodine and micronutrients. Again, use Doc Malik, all capitals, for 10% discount. All the details are on docmalik.com/affiliates. Check them out. I don't get any money until you spend and buy something, but every purchase will help support the show. And these are things that we use in the family. There's, they're good stuff, and check it out. And then the next thing I would say is, remember my consultation service, folks. If you've got a pesky condition, you're frustrated with your doctor, you want a second opinion, you feel like you're at a dead end, you got too many questions and too many unanswered, questions, and you don't know how to move forward, pick my brains. That's why I'm here. And so far, I seem to be making a difference. I've got 55-star reviews now, which I'm absolutely delighted about. And the feedback has been amazing. I mean, just the latest one by Gillian. I very much appreciated my consultation with Doc Malik to discuss my 91-year-old mother's health crisis. He talked us through her diagnosis and proposed treatment plan in a way I could understand and answered the many questions we had. It was exactly what I needed to try and get my head around why she's suffering so much and best path forward. Wonderful man, and so pleased to be able to tap into his knowledge and support. Thank you, Gillian, and thank you everyone else who left a review. So folks, yeah, if you want to tap into my knowledge, unfiltered, uncaptured, someone who respects bodily autonomy, understands the sick care system, and also how to be truly healthy, I'm here to help you. Lastly, folks, please don't subscribe to my Substack through the Apple Store, the Apple app. I get literally 50% of whatever you give to me. The rest is all taken by the App Store and Substack. All right, folks, listen, without further ado, back to the show. Thank you so much.
Well, I do it gently in the book because I think delivering bad news in a story format, because I'm talking about my journey. I'm not saying to the reader, you have to believe what I'm saying. I present it factually as it happened, and here's the conclusions I've made. And I would love to be wrong on all my conclusions.
Me too.
Yeah. So I think because it's delivered in a story format, and as I say, it's pink pill. Okay, it's a bit cerise pill in places.
I've never had a pink pill before. I love it.
Yeah. So I've done it as gently as I can while still relaying all of the really vital, important points that people need to know.
Right, listen, you're still in touch with Sandy?
I am.
All right, great. Then I can ask you, what's this all about? Have a look at this. Have a look at my phone. This is me messaging Sandy.
Oh, good luck.
So I've asked her to come on my show for over 2 years now. And this is like the third time now something's happened. And the last time we had it booked, she didn't even warn me that it wasn't happening. She didn't even message me back. I messaged her saying, look, is it not happening? She's never been in touch ever again. Is she upset with me?
No. No, I'm trying to get an interview with her next week, and
because you saw the messages.
Yeah,
what, are we all good for tomorrow? I mean, you've been messaging me saying, are we good? I'm like, yes. And I said, I guess it's not happening. And no response, nothing.
Her schedule has got crazy, more so with doing the UK column stuff. So
yeah, but it doesn't take much to just
I
message
know,
back and just say, I'm sorry, Ahmed, something came up. Because you know what? I hear people say that all the time. You think I'm not busy?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's just BS. So when you see your friend Sandy,
I will
tell her Doc Malik wasn't pleased. Doc Malik was not impressed. Because you mentioned her in your book, and I know she's been doing great work. But I have to admit, I've been kind of like that. I've been blown 3 times now. And the last time, not even any acknowledgement. It's not cool.
No, it's not.
And, and one of the things is, if we're going to fight back these evil people, we need to all raise ourselves and be good human beings and be courteous and be polite and work, together as a team. And it's like, I find...
It's like herding cats.
Honestly, this is what I was coming back to. Like, one thing, I thought orthopedic surgeons were a difficult mob. Now that I'm in this space, the kind of names that I just find, I'm like, we're seriously screwed. Like, if this is how we all conduct ourselves, like, what fracking chance have we got to defeat these people when they are so organized, so well funded, working in tandem, collaborating? They are organized,
so organized,
right?
and well orchestrated.
And then, like, on our side, it's a complete shit show. I mean, it literally is like herding like cats. Like, I have no doubt Sandy's a lovely person, but for God's sake, just send me a message and say, sorry, Ahmed, something's come up. I would have been like, okay, but not even to respond, like me just waiting here, twiddling my fingers. Is it going to happen? And she's not the only one. And it's like so many people like that. And it's just like, this is what I mean. Like, this is where your book talks about we all need to raise our game. And we're a long way off.
I know. Well, the thing is, we're not trained for this, have we? We haven't had generational conditioning and battle prep. And we're trying to, and it's usually a lot of the introvert, quiety types that are trying to get together, and there's a few loud, shouty ones, and then people have got different opinions. Karina and I were at an event, a gathering a couple of weekends ago, where they were trying to bring everybody together, everybody from different groups, and try and get them on the same page. And for the most part, they did, but it was fascinating to watch all these people sort of pick to pieces, getting the wording right with whether you say you're English, British, United, and fussing over little details. And I was sitting there watching sort of the chest thumping of, oh no, this is the right way to do it. This is the right way to do it. And it's like, oh dear.
Yeah. Right.
Look, we're on the same page. We may not all be reading the same sentence, but we're on the same page. Can we at least have something that we can all agree on, that things are not good and we need to get organised? But the fussing over details, and yeah, I get details are important on certain things, especially if you're dealing with the law versus legal and all that kind of stuff. So I get the nitpicking, but it's like, could we just all come together, please? And it did. By the end of the weekend, it was together.
But there's too much energy spent on nonsense.
I know. That's why I think, and I advocate for tiny groups of a few people that they're reading the exact same words from the page, and then coming together with other groups when you see something that you agree with, rather than trying to get this mass thing together. It's so much easier with little tiny groups with people. You can achieve a lot with a small group. And that's what I think people should be doing, rather than wasting their time arguing with bigger groups.
Absolutely. I mean, what's incredible, though, is the other side, the opposition, have got thousands of think tanks, institutions, departments, individuals, all working, in this machinery, this blob against humanity. And then you've got this ragtag little amateur outfit on the opposition trying to fight and resist this tyranny, but we're all divided, fighting amongst each other, arguing, nitpicking. It's tough. I mean, you talk about, getting organized. It's so funny. Even simple things like on X, when you post an external link, you don't get the reach. So a normal tweet of mine will get, for example, 200-300 likes, and maybe we'll reach about 5,000 people. But if I add an external link, for example, to a podcast episode, it will get maybe 10 likes and maybe 200 people.
Even if you drop it in the next comment?
Oh, I haven't done that.
Okay.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, what I say is see my bio and on Spotify, but I will still have countless people going, where's the link? And what I'm trying to say is, how can we fight tyranny when most people can't even be bothered just taking a few seconds to just go to the bio and find my website or find Spotify, and there's the episode. Most people can't do that. They want to be spoon-fed. They want Big Brother to do everything for them. This is the problem that we're in, and like, we need to shake people into a bit of self-responsibility.
Well, this starts at school, which is why one of my main things is, look, we need to get to the children. We need to help people that want to educate at home. We need to help them do that, because I know so many people that struggle or want to and just can't, that those of us with any life skills should be helping them, because we need to get as many children as we can away from this indoctrination of helplessness, and they're not taught to think, they are brainwashed. So we need to teach children real life skills and help those that are going to take the plunge to do home education to do that. And that's where we can start to make a difference right now, because this has been their plan of attack, getting the children. I mean, you look at the types of personalities we've come up against in the councils, that didn't happen overnight. That's been indoctrination from day one. So we reclaim. And, you know, you get enough children out of the system. Now, they're going to make that very difficult, obviously. But even if they still have to go to a school, there's after school clubs, there's online education, there's weekend events that we can hold and organise to show children a different way of doing things, a different way of thinking, a different way of being. And that's how we fight back, because we don't need to all agree on this. We can just do this right now with whatever skills we've got. We can volunteer to help parents. And that, I think, is how we turn things around. You could do it in a generation or two. If we've got the time, that's another matter. But if we do that right now, we can all volunteer. And that's what I'm in the process of doing, finding someone that can do the database side of things, so we can connect people with land and venues, with parents and people with skills. We get everyone together and they sort it out amongst themselves as to, you know, okay, I can teach various things, so can I, and lots of skills, life skills, because AI is not to do everything.
Where does money come from? What is your natural law? How do you grow food?
Yes.
How to eat healthily?
Yeah.
How to take care of your body? I mean, these are all fundamental things we should be teaching our kids, and they don't. But you know what? I agree with everything you said, and I really hope that does happen more and more. But I would even argue that you can still do an act of resistance. Like, if your kids are in school, you know, when they come home, don't put them in front of the TV. Don't put them in front of an iPad.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sit down with them at the dinner table and talk to them. Say, what did you learn today? And maybe tell them what you learned today. And maybe discuss with them and talk with them. Because I'm telling you right now, what makes me desperately sad is everywhere I see, parents are abdicating parental responsibility and bringing up their kids with the TV. It's a convenient childminder. You know, I can now scroll on my phone and look up Facebook and watch TikTok videos while my kid is glued to YouTube watching another child play. I mean, that's literally, I don't know if you know this, but there are YouTube videos.
Playing video games, don't they?
No. Even like a little girl playing with her dolls.
No.
I kid you not. And so how do I know this? Because my girls had a play date and they went to spend an hour with, you know, one of their friends from school. And she, you know, my daughter comes back and goes, "Oh, Daddy, I didn't know. Now I know why you said don't watch YouTube." I went, "Why?" She goes, "Well, my friend just said come upstairs to my bedroom and I thought we were going to play. But then she puts a YouTube video on and starts watching this other girl play with her dolls."
Oh,
it was really boring, Daddy. And I was like, "Why?" And I said, "Did you say anything?" I went, "Yeah." I said, "Why are we watching this girl? We should play ourselves." And she went, "Oh, okay," and then turned off her iPad.
Oh, hell.
Yeah.
No, we need to get these children out of school. Because, you know, I'm doing 8 hours of brainwashing. Doesn't matter how much you talk to your children when they get in, you've still got to unpick 8 hours of brainwashing.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
And then the poor so-and-sos have got to go back in the next day with everyone brainwashed and not get bullied because they think differently.
It's a war on our children. And it's I don't know who that, I think I'm going to look it up. Someone messaged me recently. There's a guy who was a Russian Soviet dissident who came over. Alex Creel sent me the video. I know his name, so I'll just quickly find him. Yuri Bezmenov, that's it. and Yuri Bezmenov did a lecture on subversion and demoralization. I need to do a Substack on this actually, because I watched the video. It's amazing. But basically, he talks about how, it takes 15 years to demoralize a population, and that's how long they're in school. That's what you do. So that period of education, and if you look at our educational institutions, they've all been infiltrated by these Marxists, by these Fabians, the greater good, with a nice sprinkle of communitarianism. Do you know about communitarianism?
I do. Sandy's told me about that.
Sandy.
I know. She's even sent me a book on it.
Sandy. Anyway, so basically, it's Yuri Bezmenov, and everything he talks about is this subversion has taken place through our schooling, our education, our universities. And, I went to a graduation recently for one of my family members, and it was at the South Bank Centre at UCL. And I'm there, right? First of all, what was really interesting about this graduation was 70% of the graduates were Chinese.
That doesn't surprise me.
And my nephew was like, yeah, and they're stinking rich, Ahmed. It's crazy. And the speeches, they were good, uplifting, but peppered with, because, he's an architect. And, you will go out and do sustainable development and climate friendly, stuff. I mean, like really good stuff in the sense of, you go out and life is challenging. You have to pick yourself up and don't worry about rejections, all that kind of stuff. Great. But then the Agenda 2030 things were peppered all the way through, and I'm there in the audience. I'm like, fucking bullshit. But everyone's clapping along because it all sounds wonderful and wholesome. And these are the young kids of the future, and they'll be marching to that 2030 agenda. So yeah, it's going to take at least one, if not two generations to turn things around. But that's only every parent now starts really kind of educating their kids to what's going on and informing them. So I'm glad you talk about it. And I think it's interesting because you don't have kids.
No, I don't. That's it. But that's what spurred me to do this, what's happening with the children. Now, I asked me 5 years ago, do I have a maternal bone in my body? And I'd have said, no, I run the opposite direction whenever I see children normally. But this is really deep inside. It's like, no, we've got to protect the children. So for me as a non-parent to feel like that, it just shows you that this is so important.
But it's amazing that you've got that bone in your body when so many parents don't. So there's doctors that,
They're probably run down. They're probably exhausted. They're giving everything they can just to put food on the table and a roof over their head. And then you've got to deal with the little darlings. My mother, bless her, last night, she played a tape recording of me when I was 2.5 and 3.5. And I didn't like the tape recorder, and I was kicking off and screaming and kicking. And I looked at my mum and said, this is why I don't have children. I do not want to have to ever deal with a miniature version of myself. But I could hear little me just really going for it. No, I'm not going to. And just off I went. And it was hilarious listening to me. And it's like, I wouldn't have the energy for that. On top of everything that's being done with the food being poisoned, the water, just to have a decent, good health these days and enough money in your bank account is being made incredibly difficult. So people are just getting by. The last thing they've got time and energy for is to do anything else. I think they've worn us down.
100%.
So because I'm not worn down by children, I can then see, okay, if we get to them early enough, within a generation, you're creating a whole load of sovereign beings, and you wouldn't even have to get every single one of them. If you can get 25% and then the other parents see the difference, and also even if the parents do think, okay, well, I can't be doing the homeschooling thing, they'll just go to a normal school, you could have an after school club where they mix with the ones that are out of school. And I think if you could get children really interested in learning stuff. I mean, I hated school. I hated every single second of it. And it was a surprise to me as an adult to find out how much I love learning. It's the thing I love most in the world is reading books, and you can get someone's entire knowledge in a book, and then you can read it and you've got that knowledge. I wouldn't have thought I could be that excited about learning when I was at school. That's how much they sap out the joy.
Yeah, and I would definitely say get physical books. Get Rachel's physical book. Don't get an ebook, for God's sake, or Kindle garbage.
No, I know. It's on the website if people want that format, because it's a pay what you want free if you like. But yes, funnily enough, the light paper, bless them, they did a full page on my book. And the number of more people bought a physical signed copy than they did from the free download.
Yeah.
Like 90% bought a physical copy. And I was like, oh, yeah, good on you. Thank you.
Amazing. I love the light paper. I love Darren Nesbitt.
Yeah.
Amazing. Great guy. Shout out to him. So he was here.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he took a piss in my driveway. He actually did. It was hilarious. So I came out. I was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? He was like, oh mate, I don't want to come inside. And I was like, are you mad? You can take a piss in my house. You don't need to do it in the driveway. He was like, all right, okay. Then I was like, don't shake my hands. Go wash them first. But I love him. He's such a good man.
He's great.
Brilliant guy. And the Light newspaper, God bless them. I think it's fantastic. I love the fact it's also, they've got a little wee subsidiary in Australia. It's a separate outfit, but they gave all the knowledge about how to set it up and then give it to a team of people out in Australia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Anyway, so I'm glad they pushed your book. So one of the other things as well is, like, part of me thinks with the children, they will inherit the earth. And one of the best things you can do is to create as many freedom-loving babies as possible and educate them, make them healthy, right? So imagine all your kids are not vaccinated, are not sick, are not dependent, don't suffer from mental illness, don't have attention deficit problems, their IQ isn't lowered with fluoride. They're going to inherit the earth because all the other kids are brainwashed, addicted, dopamine addicts, have low attention spans, lower IQs, drugged up, vaccinated, sicker. Who do you think's going to be in charge after a few years, after a few days? It'll be the freedom kids. So even that in itself, I think, is an act of resistance. Mm-hmm. Just raise as many healthy, vibrant, intellectually curious kids as possible. And I'll be honest with you, it's a double-edged sword. So I have raised 3 with my wife, but my wife was saying mainly me, 3 very critically thinking young children, and it makes things hard because you can't simply just say, do this. It's like, why? And then they start arguing against you with really good logic and reason, and you go, yeah, you got a point, okay. But it's I'm glad I've done it like that, It's the best way. And so I'm really glad you focused a lot on the children, because it is that. But next I want to talk about you talked about the whole common law thing. So I've been approached by so many people and they talk about sovereignty and common law and don't pay your taxes and don't do this and it's all the straw man argument and blah blah blah. I feel like a lot of what they're saying is true, but isn't actually practical and applicable in reality.
Yeah.
And I think there's some people out there who are making money out of fooling people, and desperate people will do desperate things. And I realize this as a doctor. When people are desperate, they will seek out desperate solutions. And quite often I had to try and rein patients in, no, you don't need an operation. Honestly, I know you just want that fix, but this is not the way, or no, buying that expensive thing is not going to help you. But there's a temptation for desperate people to reach out, even if it's with their wallet, to buy themselves that solution. But a lot of these courses and this and that, I don't think it really makes any difference. But there is something about sovereignty and realizing the power within us. You talk about it beautifully in the book, but can you just expand on that, please? Because I think it's really important that you say it here and people hear that.
It's like you, I don't know who to listen to 100%. It is difficult, but just realizing that,
I mean, for example, the Bill of Rights,
yeah, that's where I'm heading. So that we have the power is with the people, because the way that sets it out is that you've got your higher power, we the people, and then you've got Parliament with the monarchy and agents of government. That is the pecking order. So even if someone isn't remotely...
But it's almost like it's inverted right now.
Well, yeah, of course, that's been done by design. But even if someone isn't remotely religious, that's a pretty powerful thing to be, that God, us, the monarchy and government and agents of government, we are the ones. They are meant to be serving us. And I'd read about common law, and I'd read about the straw man that, the name is in capital letters and it's not really us, and it's all of that stuff. But that's not the world we're living in. We have a legal system, whether we like it or not. You can argue natural law, that we have inalienable rights, that we should be entitled to food, water and shelter and all of that stuff. And yes, of course. But it's what works in this system. But it's understanding the system is there to serve us, and it's not. So because I understood that intellectually, but it was the Bill of Rights where the penny really dropped, and I felt it. And it was something about it's God, then you, or a higher power, then you, then them. And it's like, oh, well, why are they telling me what to do then? And, maybe other people won't have quite that sensation that I did, but the penny really dropped with me on that. And it's like, okay, well, if they're meant to be serving me, I'm not going to listen to them anymore. I will do what I want to do as long as I don't cause any harm, loss or injury.
Absolutely. And I think what I need to do is download the Bill of Rights. By the way, is it 1689 or 1688? Can't really remember.
Sort of both. Because there was something odd with the years, but if you type in 1688, and it's on the legislation.gov.
Yeah. William and I've got it here. Yep. William and Marr says to what I might do actually is put the link into the Substack and maybe the show notes, because I think this is something that we all need to read about, and because it talks about it really is all about our rights, isn't it? And the fact that the government and the king, it was designed, first of all, to limit the power of the monarch.
Yes.
They didn't have absolute monarchy and absolute power. They couldn't just...
The divine right of kings.
Yeah, exactly.
Got rid of. Yeah.
But then equally, they didn't want to replace that with the parliament, who could just bully the people. So it really lays out, what's allowed and what's not. And, people talk about the British not having a constitution, but we do, don't we?
Well, the American constitution was based on ours, on our English constitution.
Yeah. Right. Well, okay. I'll definitely put a link up for that. So should we move on to some kind of like tangible solutions? Like what can people do? Say they've got to the point in the book where they've got a rough idea of what's going on, or maybe they've been listening to my show and they already know all the problems and where we're heading. Actually, no, I should really move back a little bit. I think, I don't know if you came to this conclusion. And by the way, actually, another tangent. I love the fact you tried psilocybins.
Have you tried them?
Yeah, once last November.
Did you microdose, or did you do what I did at the end of the microdose?
No, I didn't microdose. I went to a ceremony. I took a full whopping load.
Wow.
Went on a 6.5 hour, 7 hour trip. Travelled through dimensions and saw the God consciousness. It's quite amazing.
Oh, I'm going to have to ask you about that when I interview you.
And then, and then and did some inner integration. I found my younger child self, 5-year-old, curled up and crying, and I embraced him, and then felt whole for the first time in my life.
Oh wow!
It was very beautiful.
That's one hell of a trip.
It was fucking epic. It was very hard. I went through ego death, and it felt like 10 years. I was exhausted by the ego death. It was beautiful for the first 25 minutes, fucking hard in the middle, and then beautiful in the last 25 minutes. And I cried like never cried before. Not when my dad died, not at the birth of my children. I cried like crazy. So my mum and dad were quite abusive to each other when I was a kid. Quite a long time, arranged marriage, young kids coming over from Pakistan. They were only teenagers. And it was just very difficult growing up in that household. Just a lot of violence and screaming and things being thrown and shouting. And sometimes that verbal psychological violence is worse than physical violence. And it made me feel very alone, very unloved, scared. And so it was funny, at one point, this voice in my head was like, I was saying love is everything. I love my children. I was naming all my children, And this voice said, why do you love your children so much? And I was like, because I love them. They're my children. It's like, why do you really love them so much? Think about it. Because I love them. And then this picture came up in my head where I'm sleeping with my little boy. So if you go upstairs in our bedroom, you'll see that there's a futon at the end of my wife and I's bed. It's where my little boy sleeps.
Mm-hmm.
And most nights I end up crawling into bed with him because he says, Daddy, Daddy, and I have to come down. And strangely, I thought my little boy would have his mum as his favourite, but I'm his favourite, much to my wife and my surprise. So I end up sleeping with him quite a lot, curled up, holding on to him. And he goes, hold my hand. So I hold his hand and I just fall asleep. And I had that picture in my mind and it was like, why'd you do this? And I was like, because I love him. It's like, no. And then suddenly I was in this dark space with a cone of light shining down on this little boy, like the way my boy is just curled up. But he wasn't my boy, but it looked like my little boy. And I could hear him sobbing and crying. And there was so much emptiness and loneliness in that space. I felt just forced to cry along with him because it was just so lonely, painfully lonely. And as I came closer and looked down, I realized it wasn't my boy, it was me. And he was just so unloved, so lonely, so scared. And I realized that's why most of my life I suffered from imposter syndrome and felt that I wasn't good enough. And I lay down next to him the way I lie down every night with my boy. And I hugged him and I said, baby, you are loved just the way I do to my son. But this time I was saying it to myself. I'm saying you're loved. You're never going to be rejected. I'm never going to leave you. It's okay. And then we both cried and he just absorbed into me and we became one.
Wow.
And stuff like that. So when you were talking about your psilocybin, I was like, check you out, lady.
There was me just worrying if I was going to throw up or not. I didn't have anything close to that. You're going to make me cry with that one.
So this dish is I'm getting very teary. I've cried quite a bit thinking about that. Oh, I love my kids so much, but I've had a very tough life. I mean, I think if I went back and had the psilocybin again, I'd be terrified. One of the things I was worried about would be addictive, but it's not. But the thing is, I've been molested and abused as a child. I was in a very difficult marriage, been bullied at work, been bullied at school, bullied by things recently, ejected out of my profession.
Yes, I listened to the interview you did with Philly. It just sounds incredible what you went through.
I've had a car accident that left me with a severe neurological problem that needed emergency surgery.
Oh, gosh.
Twice, middle of the night. And if I didn't have it, I'd need frames and catheters and for the rest of my life. So what I'm trying to say, I've been through quite a bit. I really don't want another mushroom trip. That was quite painful enough. I think that's enough for a lifetime.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, I thought it was pretty cool that you tried it.
Thank you. Don't try ayahuasca then.
No.
Doesn't appeal, does it?
It's funny, and you said about the waves of nausea. I think when you're under that trip, whatever you feel, you will amplify. So if you put the vision of love in your head, it will amplify that. If you have vision of anxiety or fear, you'll amplify that. And if you have a feeling of nausea, at one point I did, I felt I was going to be so sick. And I was like, no, think something else. Think something else. Because, yeah, it's kind of wild.
Mm.
But did you think it was a positive experience? Did you take anything away from it? What did you take away from it?
Well, for
some people might be a bit worried and think this is getting all a bit new agey, but it's not.
No, I tried microdosing to see if it would help brain function. Because I had, I probably better not give the plot away in the book of why I ended up stranded in Italy. But anyway, let's just say that
guys, get the book.
I had some concerns, so it was one of the things I investigated to see if it would make a difference. It didn't, but what I did feel was, it's hard to describe. It was like, for months afterwards, I felt like a spot at the back of my head that was kind of more activated. It was almost like there was a presence that wasn't my own, but it wasn't sinister, I just felt it was part of me for quite a few months after. And considering I only did the microdosing and then that one big dose, it felt like it had, it was a symbiotic experience. It's difficult. I think people, unless you've done something like this, it is a difficult one to describe. Did you feel it stayed with you for a time after?
I think it still has. I feel very whole now. I understand why so much of my life has been the way it has been, and I don't think I really have the imposter syndrome anymore. And I do truly love myself. and understand, why and where my parents were coming from, and it wasn't their fault, and it's not that they didn't love me, even though it felt like that.
But in many ways, that has helped prepare you, because you were so badly ostracised at work, and then standing up about COVID. Maybe if you'd had all that mollycoddling and loads of love, you're used to being on the outside. So that set you up to be able to do it when thousands of people could, well, millions could.
Absolutely. So I was born in a cult, and I left the cult. It takes a lot to leave a religious cult. I was in the NHS cult, and I left the NHS cult. And once you see a cult, you see them all. I joined the Brexit Party, and that was battering, going through that. And I realised how fraudulent that whole thing was, i.e. the Brexit Party was not what I thought it would be. It was never designed to deliver Brexit.
No.
It's a controlled vehicle, outlet valve, great disappointment. And then you got COVID and this. So yeah, you know what? I've always, in some respects, been an outsider. I've always been going through hurdles and challenges, and it's not killed me, it's toughened me up. So maybe that's why out of 300,000 doctors, I'm just one of the handful that's actually spoken out against this.
Because you can take it.
I can fucking take it. I can fucking take it. Do you know what? And I kid you not, if someone said, some people say to me, aren't you scared? Are you scared the government will kill you? Do you know what? The government wants to kill me tomorrow, go ahead.
Well, they're going to anyway.
Yeah.
With what they're bringing in, it will just be a very slow death.
Yeah. And then people go, well, don't you worry about your children. I'm like, you know what? My children will be fine. They'll be fine. And it's also, I know this is not everything.
No.
There is another existence, an eternal existence. I'm not religious. I gave up that a long time ago. But the mushroom experience confirmed everything I thought. I think if anything, our brain isn't where our soul and mind and spirit resides. It's a mechanism to contain us in this realm, in this dimension. And I think if anything, the mushrooms kind of like take the pressure off that. And then you can experience.
They take the veil away.
Just make sure you tap into the other dimension or whatever universe that we're in. So, we are eternal beings of light and energy and magnetism. And we've been told that we're just a meat suit, when we're not. We are so much more than that. And we're told you're genetically flawed and damaged and you need to be enhanced with vaccines and this and that. When the truth couldn't be further from that.
No, we're perfection.
Aren't we?
The nature is absolute perfection.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that, I haven't been... I've been more of a spiritual believer. I haven't really done the whole religious stuff other than what we were taught at school. But it's funny how I've come closer to finding God in the Bill of Rights and soil. I started studying soil because I got interested when I got back to England. I started getting interested in regenerative agriculture. And this shocks me that I didn't know this, but someone in the horticultural industry, I grew up on a plant nursery with thousands and thousands of plants, and I did not know that plants can't feed themselves.
You didn't know about the mycelial network?
No.
Isn't that fascinating?
I did not know that it's the microbes that feed the plants. It's not the M, P and K that you basically, it's like giving a plant crack cocaine, is artificial fertilizers. And I'm like, how did I not know that? And then when you suddenly start to study it, and plants that, say if a plant feels, oh, I'm a little bit lacking in manganese today, they will make an exudate, which is a little piece of sugar specifically for the bacteria that they know will give them manganese or whatever that deficiency is. I mean, if that's not intelligent design, I don't know what is. And it's those two kind of coming together, and it's like, well, there absolutely must be. That, for me, studying soil was like proof.
You keep talking. I love it.
Yeah, it just, the more you study nature, the more you see the perfection of it.
When you go to Sagrada Familia as well, and you see all the, like there's the golden ratio and all the other numbers,
And look how organic those shapes are.
Yeah.
Gaudi stuff is incredible.
Yeah, but it's about the symmetry and the mathematics and the geometry and everything. So the spiral, for example, of the universe, of the galaxy, and the spirals of the flowers, and this, it's just everything is designed, I think it's called fractals as well.
Yes, it is.
A shape within a shape within a shape within a shape. It goes on and on.
You see it in a sunflower and lots of flowers. When you look at the petal formation, they have these sacred geometry.
Right. Sacred geometry. And it's like, this isn't by chance. Like, so although I don't subscribe to any of the Abrahamic religions or any religion anymore, I'm not an atheist. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but there is something.
There's something, yeah.
There is something. And that's all I can say. And I think no one's ever been across to the other side and come back and said, hey, this is what's going on.
Oh, there has actually. There's a massive book.
So you're talking about near-death experiences?
No, Thinking and Destiny. I think it was written in the 50s.
Oh.
Cliff High, who I know is quite a controversial character, he talks about this book, and it explains how religion fits in and how this place works. I've only got through this much of it, so I can't comment on it.
Send me a link or WhatsApp me the name again so I'll look it up.
Yeah.
It's one of many books I need to get through. I do read most books. I probably read about half of your book, which is more than the few chapters you told me to read.
Good, well done.
It was really enjoyable, but it's just time.
Yeah, I know.
But I highly recommend it. Again, compared to what I did read, it was just brilliant. I do read. I mean, that was the last book that I read. It was fantastic. But yeah, I just think the more you study about nature and you just see how beautiful it is, and then you realize that this is very important, Rachel. We are not the parasite. We're not this virus on this planet that the evil ones want to make out.
We should be custodians.
Absolutely, because that's part of the agenda. Part of the agenda is to make us feel that we're bad, that we're not worthy, that we're not good enough, that we are responsible for all the horrible that's happening in the planet, horrible stuff like the environmental disasters, the ecological disasters, the biosphere degradation. It's all our fault, your fault, my fault. When actually it couldn't be further from the truth. We're not responsible for this. We're not behind rapacious capitalism and monopolistic practices and raping the earth, and that's not us. That's the evil controllers. But they are they're projecting their evil and sins on us, and sadly most of humanity is buying into it. The number of people I hear say, oh, I'm not having more any kids because there's too many anyway, and we're not good for the planet. And it's like, no, we are actually part of the planet, and we are an amazing species. And when we live in harmony with the planet and don't rape the resources, but are, like you said, custodians, what a paradise this is. When you think about the cold harshness of space, radiation and vacuum and whatever, and then you've got this little oasis. We are so lucky and fortunate to call this our home, and to think that we are the virus couldn't be further from the truth. But this is what the evil ones want us to think.
We are participating though by shopping with all of these big corporations and not demanding a better way of doing things.
Yeah.
So that's, again, you asked about solutions. That's a very simple, and that was the first thing I did. No more Amazon unless it's a book that's so precious that I have to have it. So I try and cut back. And yes, it's made no difference whatsoever to their bottom line. The fact I don't shop on Amazon anymore. But also pulling back, like I had all my business expenses going through PayPal. I've cut every single one that I can cut out without completely destroying my business. So, every little pullback that you do. I mean, I've never been a big one for supermarket shopping, but now I make a point of it. And I won't go to Sainsbury's because of the Sainsbury's Future Food Report, where they're planning to basically do away with farming and they grow lab grown this, that and the other. And it's like, no, I'm not going to shop there. I've run out of supermarkets I can legitimately shop in, to be honest. But, the co-op is the closest I can get to if I do need something. But mostly there's not many things that I actually need. In fact, I'm thinking of nothing now. Vinegar, it was. The only thing I was going to the co-op for was distilled vinegar to clean the distiller. But now I thought, well, let's just bulk buy it from eBay.
Yeah.
And then I can support the little... I know eBay is a big corporation, but I can support the little businesses that are on eBay. So I do it that way.
So I 100% agree with you. So basically, I need to quickly do my order actually for my pickup tomorrow. So I use Organity. Nat Bradbury runs this food group. and she sources food from, you know, local growers and organic.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, and it's all part of the community, you know. So why go to a supermarket when you can work within your community? And that's what more people need to do, and get food independence.
Well, I buy from a local farm shop, but also for convenience, Abel and Cole. I know it's not perfect. They're very woke, unfortunately, but at least it's organic mostly, and it stops me having to go into a supermarket. But if there were more farm shops closer, I would get more from the farm shops.
Yeah, and listen, I did a Substack recently about 160 ways to resist tyranny, and that's just what I could come up with, and there's more, by the way. And one of them was, don't feed the beast.
No.
Don't buy stuff from these big multinational globalist corporations, because basically that's what they want.
Yeah, get off Netflix, get off the TV.
You know the guy who started Marks and Spencer's? You should read some of the stuff he wrote early on. It was awful. It was like, shops in the UK and America, they're all independent family businesses. They're all unique. They're all different. There was thousands and thousands of them. And now what we've got is these chains, these global chains in the high street, peppered. It doesn't matter if you go to a Dubai mall or a US mall or in even Europe now, they're all the same. And this is what they always wanted, the same families and same bankers owning the same shops, selling the same crap to us. And I know it's dying, but what we need to do is support local businesses, independent businesses, and whether it's food or clothing or whatever, and even like think about what you wear things that are 100% cotton. Don't wear
linen's the best one for the body.
Even better, linen. Apparently even hemp, you can make clothes out of hemp. Stuff like that you need to be wearing.
Yeah.
And don't consume as much. You know, I've got like 10 black t-shirts, 5 white t-shirts, 3 blue shirts and 2 jeans, you know, and you don't need to keep buying things and feed the consumerism and get into debt and eat their processed food and eat their garbage, you know, burgers. Just cook yourself, source food yourself, learn to put your hands in the soil. I mean, because that's actually good for your gut biome and your immune system. And there's so many other ways of acts of resistance. Don't subscribe to their subscriptions, you know. And you don't need to do 160. Even if you just did 10, if we all did that, you know, we're creating a dent. Keep using cash. You know, just resist is what I'm trying to say. And worst case scenario, all we do is delay the inevitable. Best case scenario, we stop them from going ahead and enacting their evil designs. Because look, the truth is, if they could have done what they wanted to have done by now, they would have. But they're clearly not there yet, because there's some kind of resistance, and they can't go too fast, otherwise they'll expose themselves. In one aspect, I feel like, you know what, we deserve what's happening, because I think you even alluded to it, like, you know, we've dropped the ball in this one. You know, what you talked about, this game or high school game, or I don't know what, global game or global school of thought or whatever, where, you know what, we've all been busy and distracted and mucking around, but we've just not focused on the fact that while we've been messing around and having fun, some bad people have been going around and stitching things up. We need to stop that. So partly it is our fault, we've dropped the ball, but partly some of me thinks that, you know what, even if they go ahead and enact their globalist agenda, which I think is a one world government, by the way, and using draconian laws and legislation and stuff like that and standardization to just basically box us in to little digital prisons, the system is so fundamentally corrupt and anti-natural, anti-nature, it will implode on itself.
I think it's inevitable.
Does that make sense?
Evil always destroys itself, and the longer we delay it, the more chance it gives people to wake up and join us, and also creating that new environment. People, I think truth resonates, and so does good things. So if people see, you know, my vision for these schools is, or these home helping hubs, home education hubs, is that they're out in nature. So ideally, it's sort of woodland school for some of the morning, and, you know, kids are away from technology as much as possible. The difference that will make in children, other parents are going to see it. They will want that for their children as well, because even if people cannot become as aware as perhaps we would like, Everyone wants the best for their children, and if they see other people's children thriving and that have the skills, like if you ever see any of these videos that come out from China, there's like tiny little kids with ickle drills and saws and power tools, and they're making stuff, and you think, God, our lot can't even tie their own shoelace at that age. So if they see what's possible with other children, so we lead by example, both with ourselves and the next generation, it would be so powerful. And I think that would take over so quickly.
Absolutely. What other acts of resistance? I mean, I've read your book and your summary, but do you want to elaborate? I mean, even things like you talk about why you don't watch TV and stuff like that. But any other ways that we can enact resistance?
I don't know. It's been 6 months since I wrote it. What did I write?
Well, let's talk about, for example, your involvement in the councils.
Oh, yes. How could we forget that?
You're funny. Talk about that.
Oh, God, yeah. I want to forget about that, I think, because it was very, very much out of my comfort zone to go in. And, you know, I'm not the type of person under normal circumstances that moans and complains about
There was
things.
3 of you, wasn't there?
Yes.
And it's Cheryl as well?
Yeah. There was.
I need to get her on the show.
You do.
She wants to talk about hair. Cheryl, listen.
Yeah, Cheryl is brilliant. She's a trichologist, and what she has noticed since the vaccines, you really need to get her on your show.
All right, listen, this is a promise. When we stop talking today, in front of you, I'm going to ring her.
You are.
Book her in.
Yeah.
So she is a lovely soul.
She is.
I need to book her in. Okay.
And Karina, actually, if you want to know about physio stuff.
Tell about all 3 of
Okay.
you. So people need to hear if they haven't already.
There was more than 3 of us, but we were the ones that went in the most. So people will have seen the videos from us. But
So we're talking about Colchester Council.
Colchester Council, yes. So on our connected group, a notification went out that the Environmental Sustainability Panel were going to put forward an idea where they were trying to persuade the public that they only needed one vehicle and eventually want to make Colchester carless. So 30 people, maybe more than that, actually traipsed in to go and find out exactly what was going on. So although they'd got the agenda pack and they'd researched it all, none of us had thought to research how one conducts oneself in a council. So because it was a public meeting, the public thought they could join in. I was half an hour late. And by the time I got there, it was absolute bedlam, because councils, for those that don't know, you're allowed an allotted 3 minutes to have your say, as they like to call it. And everyone was trying to talk at once, and eventually they shut down the meeting because of this. So I went upstairs, and by the time I walked through the door, they were saying, right, 2 of you can have your say. And I think, what's going on? And before I knew it, it was Cheryl actually that said, Rachel, will you do it? And it's like, I don't know what's going on, because I'd opened up the agenda pack, but it looked so dull. I thought, oh, well, I'm not going to bother reading that. I'll find out about it in the meeting. There's no need to read it.
You're just going to wing it.
Well, no, it's not like I was going to talk. I was just going to go and listen to this meeting. I had no intention of talking whatsoever. But Cheryl's got a Dagenham accent. She said, look, they're not going to take me seriously, but they'll listen to you. And I was like, oh, but what's going on? No clue. I knew it was something to do with cars, but, you know, I hadn't read anything, and I was half an hour late, so I'd missed all of the discussion. Before I knew it, I found myself in the hot seat going, thankfully, Cheryl passed me a little post-it note with 3 things to grill them over, so I did my best, but it wasn't very good. And the next day I watched the replay of the bit I'd missed, and it was all about how they were going to put EVs in Colchester and rapid transit bus system. They're doing the blimmin' bicycles that they leave everywhere, and the scooters, although they've since stopped the scooters. And I don't know whether it's anything to do with us saying that, you know, one of these things explodes, it's got the force of 6 hand grenades. Are you sure this is a good idea?
God.
Well, the bikes, not the scooters, actually. I should correct myself. So anyway, I thought, oh, well, we know, having seen, because, you know, you're on Telegram, you see a lot of the alternative stuff, and we had seen just how lethal these things were way before it becoming on mainstream. So stupidly, I said the next day, like, look, we're going to have to go back and tell them this stuff's really dangerous. So I was really kicking myself that had I known it was about EVs, I could have warned them and spoken about it. So I thought, no, I must put this right. And went back a month later when the next meeting was and also I made such a hash of not knowing what was going on. I thought, right, I'll have a properly researched written speech. So I did all that, and it actually turned out to be very good that I hadn't known at the time, because it enabled me to do a lot more research, and EVs and things were far worse than I had ever considered.
Why are they so far worse?
Because of the pollution from the mining and the child slave labour that's involved in the cobalt. Now, you can't, because they mix it all together in the factory, 70% is from slavery, and it's mixed in with 30% that isn't. So unfortunately, we've all been party of this, because we've all got mobile phones and computers with batteries in. So you cannot have, and also oil refinery uses cobalt as well. But at least with oil refinery, I think it's 98.2% is recycled. So you get through it very slowly. But with EVs, the amount of cobalt they need for that is through the charts compared to what we're currently using. So, you know, it makes a bad situation a million times worse. And also the lithium, when it's extracted, they put it in these, basically they use, I think it's 3,000 gallons of water a minute to clean it, and it sits in these chambers and it leaches into the soil, which of course contaminates the water supply for at least 300 years. And the areas where they're lithium mining tend to be areas where indigenous people are living. They've already been run off the best land back in the day, and now they're scraping together their living and able to farm, and then their water's being polluted. So you see all these eco-warriors throwing in statues of people that were involved in slavery back in the day, chucking them into lakes and whatever and pushing them down. You think, hang on a minute, you're doing this again in your bid to save the planet with anything that's got a rechargeable battery. So anyway, the pollution's off the charts. There are ways of doing it differently, but mostly it's very, very polluting. So for something that's billed to be green, for me, if you're going to have something that's green, and oil's very polluting, everything we do in this world is polluting, but some are worse than others. And to me, polluting a water supply, and once I understood about soil microbes, I was completely sort of beside myself that you can't do this and call it green.
It's an intelligent network.
Oh, I know. Even digging. Because I got into no dig, which upset my father, who likes to rotivate his allotment every chance you blink. He's out there with his rotivator. I'm saying, no, you're destroying the colonies. So the last thing you want to be doing is pouring sulfuric acid onto it. But anyway, saving the planet. So we went in to show them and give them the speech. So Cheryl knows somebody that was very high up in the fire, well, he still is, I think, fire service. And, you know, he's the guy that they call out to train the trainers, and he's gone out to Dubai because he's like the best fire expert ever. So I got my own back on her and said, right, will you come with me? I'll do a speech on the pollution side. You tell them how dangerous the fires are. Because once these lithium fires go, putting them out's an absolute nightmare. So she did a really good speech on that. So she had the best speech of the night, but I went in sort of to warm up the audience, give them grounds for divorce. So from their beloved EVs and whatnot, because we'd had a talk by, have you come across David Charalambous from reachingpeople.net?
Yeah.
So
he's brilliant.
He is brilliant. So he'd given us a talk 2 weeks prior, and he had sown the seed that if you communicate correctly, you can actually reach someone that has the completely different point of view to you. And that for me was like, can you? Oh, because I was just going to strut in and tell them off and how ridiculous it was and then strut out again. But no, he made me attack that speech. It took me 2 weeks to write the first one because I wanted to reach them in a way they could understand. So meet people where they're at and then say, come this way. So that first one, now the one that went viral, I'd done a similar thing because I'd got solar panels in that one. But I think this first one, oh yes, I spoke about how I had purchased a diesel vehicle, a car I hated because I thought I was doing my bit for the environment. And then of course, obviously, diesel is one of the most polluting. So that we all fall for it. So I was trying to pave the way to say, and EVs are no better. They're not as great. Have any of you researched what goes into this? And, you know, I got the kind of the brush. I was quite surprised because at that point I thought, well, if we go in and give them the information they haven't been given, they all seemed like very reasonable people and very likeable on our first, despite the hoo-ha of people, you know, speaking when they shouldn't speak. The actual counsellors, once we got to it, were really nice and thoughtful. So I thought, well, they're good people. We give them the information they haven't had, and then they'll just stop what they're doing. That my naivety and never having been, I know, I feel really stupid now. But anyway, I had a good heart and an open mind, and I went in to try and reach them and speak to them, communicate in a way that I thought they would take on board. Not understanding politics, never having any interest, being out of the country for 10 years, not knowing what was going on really, in having any clue about local governance, and not realising that it's the people behind the scenes, it's the officers, it's the political parties, that they're corralled into a system that isn't serving us. And they even if it doesn't really inspire independent thought, but even if you can get some that do have independent thought, the system does not allow them to function. But I didn't know any of that, so I went in very innocently trying to educate, and was very shocked when they didn't seem to be listening. Yes, anyway, they then went for their break. Now, it must have been for the summer break, and then you get a whole new lot, I think. So when they got replaced, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to go back and do it all over again. And this time Karina came with me, and she gave a speech. I can't even remember what it was on now, but it was a good job we documented everything, because when I came to write the book, I couldn't remember half of what happened. So all I had to do was read through the speeches and watch the videos, because we then put the videos onto YouTube, because we thought, well, everyone needs to know about this, because we can't be the only people that didn't realise just how polluting lithium and, you know, the child slave labour, etc. So we did more with the videos going viral than we ever managed at that council.
Yeah.
But we did manage to wake up some, and unfortunately it was the ones that weren't in positions of power. It was the ones that were on the opposition. So they didn't have any reason not to listen to us. So it became this epic battle that went on for 2 years of Karina, myself, and Cheryl had some family issues with health, so she had to duck out for a few months. But the three of us, like a relay team, going backwards and forwards, and other people came in as well. And, you know, there was probably 5 or 6 of us, but the core ones that went back in, week out, were myself, Cheryl, and Karina. We didn't move the council much. We've had some tiny successes, more Karina with 5G, which is a whole other thing. But at least we got the conversation going, and it got going online more than it had been. That starting to peel back the net zero lies, that one after a time, that this isn't green, this isn't green. So it got the conversation going. So we did more with the videos, which were an afterthought, than we did actually going into the council in the first place.
And then you got throttled when you started talking about 5G.
Yes, that was weird.
How crazy is that?
I know.
That's a topic you cannot talk about.
No, you would think. I was always expecting the channel to get shut down and slapped because of what we were saying about the climate and the beloved net zero and EVs. But no, we got throttled once we started tackling 5G. As soon as we covered that topic, you know, we were gaining...
They rolled that out during COVID for a reason. So
yeah.
Do you never think it's a bit weird that in the midst of a global pandemic, when everybody's at risk of dying and humanity's teetering at the edge, and everyone has to stay at home, only essential workers... What does essential workers mean? How insulting to everyone else, by the way. You're not essential. They happen to roll out 5G around the world. Crazy that, isn't it?
Well, I didn't, being trapped in Spain and not being able to see anything, I didn't know it was happening. It wasn't until I got back and started
And you see the terrace everywhere.
Yeah.
Have you not noticed that?
Oh, I have now. Yeah, no, I noticed once I got back. But what I'm saying is I was stuck in Spain with a very limited view. I could see the sea and a mountain, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I didn't dare leave the house for 3 months, more or less. So, yeah, I didn't know about that. But once I got back to England and read about it and researched, although I think, no, I probably had come across it during my researching that it was going on, but I hadn't seen it with my own eyes till I got back to England. And then they're blimmin' ugly things. You see them everywhere. So yeah, it once we started talking about that, and Karina, she's a physio and she's into health, and she has worked with diathermy, I think it is. So she understands the positive healing benefits of electromagnetic frequencies, but also she understands the other side where it can cause harm depending on the frequency. So that's been her baby. But I worked with her to help with the research, and another member of the public brought it to the forefront before we did. And unfortunately, he lumped it with every conspiracy known to man. I mean, he didn't say anything that wasn't true, but you could see the look on the counsellors' faces that it was, the screen came down.
It's too much.
It was too much. Although, actually, to give both him and the counsellor that dealt with him credit, she agreed with him. She said, I don't agree with all of your points, but I'm worried about it. I've campaigned about the tower that they were going to put out outside my daughter's school. So she was very, very on board with what he was saying, where everyone else was rolling their eyes. And she got slated in the newspapers because she was sympathetic.
Well, I've talked about non-native EMFs, and I've had people like Nick, Pinot on, and I'm telling you right now, it's very worrying. All this non-native EMF and 5G. I mean, the frequency is the same frequency that's used in a microwave to boil water, and we're mainly water. I mean, it's not good. It causes a whole host of medical and psychological problems.
Any of the Gs do that. It's not 5G
Exactly.
acts in a completely different way.
Yeah. So, they're all bad and they're all dangerous, but they're all required for this Internet of Bodies and Internet of Things. And that's also part of their agenda. They want to track and trace and monitor every single thing, and be able to switch off our appliances, our fridges, our washing machines, stop them, because reduce your carbon footprint, because we're killing the planet. And that's why it's important we debunk their climate change narrative, isn't it? Because it is a crock of shit. I mean, the cursory examination of it, with an unbiased eye, will go, what is this garbage? It doesn't even make sense. And that's not saying that I'm not keen to look after the environment and the planet and, stop polluting our seas and our air. This is something else. This whole climate agenda that this planet is globally warming and is dangerous and it's because of us, because of man, is a crock of shit. It's a lie. But they weaponized this lie to enact all of their evil designs. I mean, it's quite clever, actually. They can tax us more. They can restrict our travel because of it. They can restrict what we eat because of it. We need to get a vaccine now for global warming. I mean, it's madness, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I do respect the level of work and skill that they have put. They're just, all their plans are brilliant.
Yeah.
So, you can't fault them on devious plot and how they execute. They are excellent for that. So, yeah, because I was doing my digital nomading for 10 years, I missed all of the climate propaganda. So I was very open-minded when I did the research, because I hadn't CO2. The reason I'd been into renewables was because of the oil spills, and it's heartbreaking when you see all the seabirds and the seals and all the wildlife covered in sticky oil. That's why I had been a supporter of renewables. So I had never researched it. It was a heart reaction to, that seems clean. So I was quite upset when I found it wasn't. And then I thought, well, okay, I know from Sandy that the net zero is a big part of this agenda, so let's research it more. And it doesn't, once you research it, it doesn't take long to see that actually no, because most of the warming from CO2 happens between 50 and 100 parts per million. It's as oh gosh, I've had a complete mind blank on his name. Dr. William Happer has detailed the analogy he gives. He said, imagine painting a barn red, and you've got a really good paint, really thick, excellent quality. So the first coat, you really notice that coat. The second coat, you really notice it. But by the 10th coat of red paint, are you going to honestly say you can see it's any redder? No. And that's how CO2 works. It is inversely logarithmic with the amount of warming it can do. And all that focus on a gas that is tiny, but it's tiny but powerful. There isn't that much in our atmosphere.
0.0004%.
Yes, but don't get caught up on that, because that's the mistake I made when I first researched, because it's what it can do. It's not the quantity.
But CO2 is the gas of life.
Yes.
We
yes,
need it.
is.
Plants need it.
Yeah.
And if you look at the average global temperature over hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions, we're actually below the average. And if there is global warming, fuck yeah, we need it, because when there's global warming, that's when life flourishes on this planet. Biological life flourishes, plants, fauna, animals, sea life, everything. So if anything, I think NASA's actually said, yeah, the world is greener now than it was.
The deserts are regreening because of the CO2.
Right, so CO2 is the gas of life. Yeah. It's not a bad thing.
No, it's not. It's
good that there's global warming.
Yeah, horticulturalists will pump CO2 into greenhouses to get their plants to grow. And the warming...
But Bill Gates will tell you it's the gas of death, and we need to capture it and bottle it, and all of us need to stop producing carbon. When, like, the inversion is, the truth is, when they say we need to reduce carbon, we're the carbon they want to reduce, isn't it?
Bless these little cottons. Yeah, well, Bill Gates can say what he likes, but the facts are that when you look at the charts, there is definitely, when you look at temperature and CO2, there is definitely a correlation. But when you zoom in, there's about 400 to 800 years difference in the warming and cooling. And the higher the CO2, now let me get this right, it's inversed. It's the other way round. When we've got low CO2, no, hang on, it's been ages since I've looked at this chart. Don't muck this bit up, Rachel. You'll never hear the end of it. But basically, it's the other way round. When we've got a lot of CO2, it isn't actually warmer, it's cooler then when you really zoom in on it. And, you know, it doesn't take much actually within... Well, I actually ended up doing a climate science class, and within just the first few lessons, because I really wanted to understand it, because people kept asking me to talk about it. And when I really went into the deep science of it, it's like, this is not, how have they got away with this lie that CO2 is this main contributor to warming?
And it's not just the lie, the main lie is that it's man-made. So there might be global warming, but the impact of the sun is totally discounted.
Oh, no, you can't mention the sun.
Can't talk. I mean, like,
no, or water vapor. Don't mention that.
You know, that big massive thing that's up in the sky.
No,
you know,
nothing to do with that.
Big massive burning.
It's your fault.
Yeah, well, it's cows farting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, do you think dinosaurs farting is what made them go extinct? Like, seriously, it's just like, you can't make this shit up. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you just need to look into it, and it's just all a little crock of shit. But just like people have been guilted, white people have been guilted into being white. You know, it's all your fault. Critical race theory, it's all white man's fault, the burden that you've carried, you've caused all this problem in humanity. Now it's all of humanity should be guilty, because you breathing and just being is destroying the planet. And it's like, the only guilt that should be there is the philanthropists, the evil controllers. They're the ones who've created all the wars, all the misery, all the pollution. Like, they're the ones behind 99% of all the shit that goes wrong in this world.
But if people could just understand the difference between weather and climate. So for something to be considered climate, it has to be an absolute minimum of 30 years. So if we've had 30 years of drought, then you can say that is a climate change. But if it's just 1 year and it's a drought, that's not climate change, that's weather. And, you know, usually climate is considered over hundreds, if not thousands of years. So all of this fear-mongering, I mean, it's hilarious. You look at the weather maps these days, everything's coloured in dark red, almost black. And it's like, I've been in Spain when it's 50 degrees and they just had like a little yellow, oh, it's going to be 50 degrees today. You know, and it's like, no one was panicking that it was 50 degrees in Toledo.
Yeah.
In the middle of the summer. It's like, yeah, it's Spain, it's hot in the summer. But now it's, you're gonna die, it's global warming. Although they don't call it that now, do they? It's climate change, of course.
Because it's not really warming.
Really warming, no.
Yeah, oh God, it's just hilarious. And people don't understand that what's really dangerous is global cooling. But it's okay. But it makes sense. Let's blight our fields with solar panels and then spray the skies to block out the sun. Like, sorry, how does that work?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but that's the madness that we're living in now, isn't it? Right, listen, like, what are your top 5 acts of resistance to what is happening? The global tyranny, the march towards totalitarianism, one world government, Agenda 2030, and restrictions of all our freedoms. Like, what would be your top 5 things that you would recommend?
I think everything that we've covered, talking about it, telling people, not being scared to speak out, and actually educating others, because that's going to be the fastest way to recovery.
Great.
Definitely getting the children out of the matrix.
Okay.
And yeah, children, family, whoever you can pull out the matrix, do so. Stop supporting the matrix and these big corporations, because it's stakeholder capitalism. That is how they are getting us.
Shout out to Jeff.
Oh, yes, of course. Yellow Forum, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his surname again?
Oh, God.
I can't remember. I've forgotten. I'm going to look it up. Everyone.
Richard Jeffs. It's Richard
Jeffs. Right. Richard Jeffs. Everyone check out my podcast with Richard Jeffs. He's brilliant.
He is brilliant.
And go to his Yellow Forum website. I mean, that guy needs all the support. He's got everything documented, and you put it on your own website as well. All the evidence is there about stakeholder capitalism, and it's all the same. It's all communitarianism. That's the philosophy and ideology, and stakeholder capitalism is how they're executing this evil one world government. Right. And your last one?
The last one is individual sovereignty. So food, health, whatever you can do to be independent and look after yourself, because most supermarkets, I think they've got it's ridiculous, the buy just in time. They've got like 2.5 hours of stock. When the shit hits the fan, you need to have enough food and water and ways that you can look after yourself, both medically, whatever you need to do and your family needs, you need that in stock, and you need it in stock now.
Yeah, great. I love it. Those were really good points, by the way. Well done, 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Do you know it's over 2 hours now?
Is it?
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
What did I say when I said it's going to take about 2 hours?
And I'm thinking, what on earth are we going to talk about for 2 hours?
Right. Okay, now's a good time for the final question of the day. So you're on your deathbed, you're about to meet your maker, whatever it is. Before you do, what words of wisdom and advice will you give to your loved ones?
Knowing me, I'd come out with, I told you I was ill. I don't think it'll be anything profound, but, well, I don't know, because I would hope that the version of me that's going to die is going to be a hell of a lot older and wiser. But all I can give you is what the me of today would say. And that is, follow what fascinates you, because I think whatever fascinates you is little breadcrumbs from the universe pointing you in the right direction. And finally, don't ever think that your voice is too small or you are unimportant, because every person that speaks out makes a difference.
Perfect. Right, where can people find you? Where can they find your book?
Right, they can find me at rachelmathews.uk, and that's Rachel spelt RACHEL, and Mathews with just the one T.uk, and /books. If they want just this one, then they need to go to rachelmathews.uk.
You need to
accidental.
So that you need to read that out, because some people might not be watching the video.
Okay, so it's Misadventures of an Accidental Activist, and it's at rachelmathews.uk /accidental. But if it's easier to remember, just rachelmathews.uk /books, and they've got the other one as well, my travel book.
There's one thing wrong with your picture, by the way.
Doesn't look like me.
That as well. Yes. And there's no chemtrails.
Oh, yeah. Didn't think of that.
There's no chemtrails. I was like, where are the chemtrails?
I really struggled because my cousin's kid did the first cover for me and she wasn't available. So this is the one she did. So I had to get someone else to do this cover.
That was similar.
Yeah, he couldn't do the face.
Yeah.
So she did a good job with this one.
Yeah.
But I wanted, because there's going to be 3 books now, I wanted there to be consistency with the covers.
I like it.
Mm.
Nice. Right, listen, thank you so much, Rachel.
You're very welcome.
So quiet. Anyway, listen, yeah, Rachel, I'm talking to you about your book and you're giving me tips and tricks about how to publish, because I really want to get a book out next year. So thanks for doing that.
You're welcome.
And Yeah, I was saying I really want to give a copy to some family members, and I just think it's a really good book to wake people up. You know?
That was the main focus for writing it, that people could give it to friends and family, and because it's in a story format, it's not too challenging. You're not saying you've got to believe this,
And it's humorous.
Yeah, precisely. I was surprised at just how much humour I managed to get into it, but so much happened behind the scenes, especially at Council Watch, that it did end up being quite funny. So at least it's serious and, you know, tells people what's going on, but you can laugh at it as well. So I think that helps. You need humour.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, so hands up, today was not a good day to come and do a podcast with me because I was in a bit of a pouty lip mood because I'm just overwhelmed by all the shit.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I'm very cheery, chirpy, and everybody listening on the podcast will attest to that. And I'm quite funny as well. Naturally, I like taking the piss out of people, and we've been quite serious today. We've been quite serious, very serious. But I've realised, despite being quite serious today, that, you know, getting through to people isn't through data and statistics and bar charts and, you know, graphs. That's not going to work. Actually, one of the most powerful mediums is humor. Like, it just cuts through the propaganda and that cognitive dissonance. So yeah, book's really good with that because it's just really lighthearted and yeah, it's good.
Thank you.
So I was saying, and I'm glad we're just doing this little weird recording. I think this is a great gift to give to people who you like and also who you don't like.
I've had one lady buy 6 copies. She's got a B&B and she's given one to her brother who's a counsellor, and she's going to give it out and have it in her B&B to wake people up.
Amazing. All right. All right, folks, you heard it. It's not very expensive. Get the book. It's an enjoyable read.
It is.
And it might even help wake up one of your loved ones.
And they can get a signed copy from my website as well.
Yeah.
Made out to whoever they want.
I think that's lovely. And I think that's really important as well, actually, on that note, saying how it's quite good if people buy directly from your website, not Amazon, because you get to keep a little bit more of the money. And there's not much money in the book making.
You don't write a book to make money.
Right?
No.
It's just not happening.
No.
But yeah, buy from your website. Don't feed the beast if you can.
Precisely.
Have you done an audio version?
I have, yes.
In your own voice?
I did, yes. And also I included the actual council speeches so you can hear when I'm talking about how nervous we were or whatever was going on behind the scenes. You can hear it all in the recording.
And can you buy that from your website?
You can indeed. It's the only place you can get it. I'm not giving Amazon that.
Oh, your little wee MP4.
You get nothing for audiobooks. I let them have the first audiobook and it's like, no, never again.
Love it. Well done, you.
Thank you.
You're a star.
Thank you.
Little inspiration. I, Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence, and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm, or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.